I've been rewatching Downton Abbey from the beginning because the new movie is coming out, and just going through season 1, I forgot how many crazy things happen. First and foremost, the very first episode, the only reason the show exists is the fact that the Titanic sinks and the cousin that Mary was supposed to marry sinks with the boat. It happens within the first 10 minutes of the pilot episode, and then really the only reason we talk about it in the first place is not because it's this big insane event that we're going to be obsessed with as humanity for decades to come, but because it reveals the entail and the fact that they are going to lose all of the money and Downton Abbey as an estate because the heir to the estate will not be married by one of the daughters. That's what leads us to the arrival of Dan Stevens and the new heir, and Mary's possibility of marrying yet another cousin. It also brings up all of these ideas of women as property and how all of their money worked at the time, but it is fascinating because it is the Titanic. This show does not exist if the Titanic doesn't sink. Not only that, but the first season is only 7 episodes, and they cross a full 2 years, starting with the sinking of the Titanic and ending in 1914. Also in there, Theo James has a guest star role, where he's present for exactly 1 episode, takes advantage of Mary, and has a heart attack while doing so. And I truly forgot how many betrayals and wild moments happen in just the first season alone of this show, but it also reminded me why it was such a hit and why all of these years later we're looking at yet another film. But truly one of the things that I think stands out the most about this show is the involvement of the Titanic, and also the fact that there is literally a scene a few episodes later where one of the kitchen maids brings up the Titanic and is told, "Aren't you pretty much over that by now?" No, babes, we're still talking about it all of these years later. Like right now, the Titanic is still a big deal in modern day history. And I just kind of love the idea that the Titanic was something that everybody just needed to move on from, you know? Tragedy happens. But also rewatching the show reminded me of the fact that Julian Fellowes actually wrote every single episode of Downton Abbey. And if you don't know everything about Julian Fellowes, not only was he the creator of Downton Abbey, but prior to Downton Abbey, he also wrote a film called Gosford Park, which he won the Academy Award for Best Screenplay for in 2002. And that movie not only played with the idea of the upstairs-downstairs dynamic, but it also starred Maggie Smith, who also ended up in Downton Abbey. And I do think it's important to state that in the midst of Downton Abbey's run in 2012, Julian Fellowes wrote a Titanic 4-episode miniseries. So clearly there are a couple of things that Julian Fellowes enjoys writing about, and those include sinking ships and upstairs-downstairs dynamics. Downton Abbey has a special place in my heart because my very first TV internship was actually with PBS Masterpiece during Downton Abbey's run. And one of the things that has always struck me about this show is how well Julian Fellowes was able to create this series and do so in sort of an auteur manner for television before we were really doing that in a major way. And it's interesting because, of course, we had 6 seasons of Downton Abbey, but now we're on our 3rd film. So if you are a fan of Downton Abbey, are you ready for the new movie? And if you've never watched Downton Abbey before, would you watch it knowing that it wouldn't exist if the Titanic didn't sink?